Evening peeps, good evening everyone. All right, don't forget, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget as well to like and share the vids. This has just come up, by the way. Keith Thurman versus Barrios, which we knew was going to be on pay-per-view, has just been priced at $74.95. Remember, that fight takes place February the 5th. $74.95 for two people coming off losses. Let's not forget, Barrios got slept by Gervonta Davis. I thought he was actually doing well in that fight, but nonetheless, it was a loss. And Keith Thurman, we've not seen in a ring for 2.5 years, is coming off that loss to Manny Pacquiao. Good fight, but again, facts are the facts. Both of those guys are coming off losses. And it's $74.95. It's madness. Bear in mind, a couple of weeks ago, they had Luis Ortiz versus Charles Martin on pay-per-view. I think it's ridiculous. Like, if it is going to be on pay-per-view, it should be at the lowest possible cost. I don't know what the lowest pay-per-view in America is. $40? It should be at that to try and entice people. $74.95 for Keith Thurman Barrios. That ain't going to do good numbers. Ain't going to do good numbers at all because it's ridiculous. One man we would pay at that price to see fight is Canelo Alvarez. Let's talk about the pound-for-pound king now. It's been a strange, 3-4 weeks for Canelo and this search for a dance partner in May. He will fight again in May, I have no doubt about it. I actually thought he could fight sooner than that, by the way, just bearing in mind what he did last time out. This time last year, he was getting ready for a fight against Anthony Yildirim and then still fought in May, so I thought he might do that, but we might get less fights from him this year. We might only get 2 fights from Canelo this year, but I expect them to be 2 big ones. Question mark. We'll talk about why in a question mark in a minute. So yeah, it's been an interesting few weeks. I say a few weeks because 3-4 weeks ago, we all thought it was going to be Ilunga Makabu. That was it. Canelo was going to go and try and become a 5-weight world champion and try and etch his name into boxing history. He's already there, but even etch it a bit harder into boxing history. And all of a sudden, that seems to have just gone away, which I find strange. I'm not quite sure what's happened. We saw them kind of go face-to-face, if you like, at the WBC convention. It looked like that fight was going to be made. I'm not quite sure what's going on. I know Makabu's got a fight coming up, but you expect him to get past that and then fight Canelo. That was it. Canelo was gunning for history. Maybe not so. And then a few days ago, we started to hear rumours about him versus Jermall Charlo. Again, another good fight. Again, look, these are big fights for May, really big fights. A lot of people were more excited about Jermall Charlo versus Canelo than Makabu versus Canelo. I'm not fussed either way. I think both of them are really good. I think Jermall Charlo causes him some problems. It's a fight everyone wants to see. And obviously, Makabu, it's the size thing. So either one was exciting for me. And then 2 days ago, ESPN Mexico reporter Salvador Rodriguez reported that Canelo's next fight could be one which a lot of boxing purists are not happy with. And that kind of just threw everything into sort of just open space. I had no idea what that means, if I'm honest with you, because Canelo's one of those fighters whereby, he's not going to do... Look, he has had the Yildirims of the world, the Rocky Fieldings of the world, but he's not going to do like a Fury and fight a fucking Sefa Safiri type. I don't expect him to do that. What this did do then, it got everyone's tongues wagging as, could it be Jake Paul? No, absolutely not. As much as I would love to see Canelo sleep Jake Paul, Canelo is not fighting Jake Paul. I will tell you this now though, there'll be a lot of money on the table for Canelo versus Jake Paul, but it's not going to be that. So it did make me kind of try and think, okay, who could he be fighting that would make boxing purists not be happy with? Because I feel that Canelo almost has the credit in the bank, and I said this a couple of days ago, to get away with having a gimme fight if he's going to have a big one next. I just don't think he would do that on the May date because it's a big day for Mexico. It's a big day for boxing. I don't think he'd do that. That's a gimme fight is kind of what he would do right now. Right now is a gimme fight. A fight that maybe we wouldn't be happy with. But even then, it would still be a boxer that we know, maybe a faded champion or something, but it'll be someone we know. So I'm very taken back by that. And to be honest with you, I don't believe it. I don't believe it, and I don't think Canelo will do that either. Canelo at this stage of his career, and there's a few years left, by the way, but he's now chasing greatness. He now wants to be considered the greatest Mexican ever. Some people actually think he is already, over Julio Cesar Chavez. But I think he wants more than that as well. I think he's chasing real greatness. Hence why Makabu was thought of, and hence why he wants to maybe become undisputed at 175 pounds. There isn't a boxer in my recent memory that has the pick of the fights between 160, 168, 175 and cruiserweight. Like, it's ridiculous. They literally had the pick of the fights in 4 weight divisions. I actually still think he's undersized massively for 168. I mean, let alone 175 and cruiserweight. I mean, when you saw him in there against Caleb Plant, he looked really tiny. He looked really tiny against Callum Smith as well. Billy Joe Saunders not so small, but Billy Joe Saunders really is a 160 fighter. So I think Canelo really should still be fighting at 160. Hence why I still think he could potentially go back down to 160. And then there are so many fights. 168 he's already cleaned up, but there will be guys there that he could still fight. Benavidez is one that springs to mind. 175, Joe Smith called him out after his win on the weekend. Dmitry Bivol's there. Beterbiev is there. Look, that would be special. Do you know what I mean? That would, because I'm one of those people that have said, look, you're calling that Makabu because Makabu is the weakest champion. You beat Kovalev, and we know Kovalev at the time was faded. Him fighting Beterbiev, who is the #1, without a shadow of a doubt, would be the biggest, like, just an unbelievable call out. I can't even think of the phrase, but it would just be an unbelievable get if that's what he were to do. I don't think he will do that. I'm not quite sure. I'll chuck one other name in there that I still think there's legs in it. Not a lot of legs in it, but I think there's some legs in it, and that's Gennady Golovkin. Maybe Gennady Golovkin was supposed to fight Murata in Japan. COVID obviously caused that fight to be postponed. I mean, I don't think any fight fan would be upset if Gennady Golovkin was like, fuck the Murata fight, let's just do this one more time with Canelo at 160 or 168. Like, don't get me wrong, you'd heavily favour Canelo, but you'd heavily favour Canelo against most people now. Why not do the trilogy? Why not? It's a big fight. It's a big money fight. It's a fight that I think, even if he were to fight a Dmitry Bivol, it's bigger than that. It does, in terms of like numbers. I don't know if it's bigger than that because obviously Bivol has a belt at 175, but it's a bigger number fight than that. It's a bigger number fight than Joe Smith. I don't think it's a bigger number fight than Beterbiev. It might be because I think Golovkin's got more of a following, but it's still a very, very big fight. So look, he's got so many different options, and I hope when you're a fighter that's got all those options, again, we're talking about champions at 160, good fighters, unbeaten fighters like Benavidez at 168, all the champions at 175, a couple of guys at in the cruiserweight division. When you've got all those options, I would hate to think that what Salvador Rodriguez says is true, that we're going to be upset. And he goes down a route where it's like, come on, Canelo, you don't need to do that. Again, he's got credit in the bank, guys. He can kind of do that. Your last 2 fights have been Caleb Plant and Billy Joe Saunders. You can kind of do what you want to do here now, but it'll be very, very disappointing. And unlike Canelo, because let's not forget, a Yildirim fight was because I think Yildirim was, the WBC belt was on the line because of the Yildirim situation back in the day with Anthony Durrell. So the Yildirim fight was for a reason. So I would hate for him to do it. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Canelo. Honestly, if I had to take my pick of all the fights I'd love him to have in order, I think I'd probably go... So my top 4, starting from top to bottom here, Beterbiev would be #1, Bivol would be #2, Benavidez would be #3, and Golovkin would actually be above Jermall Charlo at #4. That would be my 4. But I would not be upset about Makabu, Jermall Charlo, Demetrius Andrade, anyone. But I would be upset if it is a fight that us purists are not happy with, because when you have those many options, when you are the cash cow, you know, don't do that. Don't do that. All right, guys, anyway, what do you think? Who do you think he will fight next? Let me know. Peace.